Okay, welcome to the stream. Today we are going to build a do app in Flutter, which is a lot easier than maybe what you have used like React Native. It's a lot easier because it's just a widget form. It's just like you're calling a JavaScript function over and over and over and over. So that when it keeps calling over and over and over, and then after that everything else will be rendered. Let me just show you an example of how easy it is. Let me just open my command prompt. Any terminal should work, but the things that are needed in this episode, make sure that you have the Flutter SDK. So let me just come here. You go to flutter.io or flutter.dev, doesn't matter. Flutter.io or flutter.dev, either one will work. Just press this get started button and it will take you to this install page, and you can pick for your different platforms. It even supports the Chrome OS, like Chromebooks. It supports the Chromebooks, so it's available to all platforms. And important, if you're in China, you have to read this using Flutter in China, and you can see you have to do this command. So you type in export pub hosted URL is equals to, it's something different on Windows, it's for Mac OS. So pub hosted URL equals / and all of these, and then after that cd./flutter, and then you call Flutter doctor just to check. Yeah, that's how it is on China. But if you're not in China, you're fine. Don't need to do exporting anything. Pick your operating system. Let me just go and quick through the installations. The system requirements, so requirements that you need to install and run Flutter. Your development environment must meet these minimum requirements. The operating system is Windows 7 SP1 or later, so 64 bits, and 64-bit space, and it must be Windows 7 or higher. So if you have a Windows 7, that's good. Okay, and then the disk space needed is 1.32 gigabytes, and that is the Flutter SDK itself. It does not include the space for the IDE or tools, and the tools needed are Flutter depends on those tools being available in your environment. Here are the tools. So you need Windows PowerShell 5.0 or newer. This is pre-installed with Windows 10. So Windows 8, Windows 7. Make sure you check if you have something like that. Make sure you upgrade. Make sure you upgrade your PowerShell. Yeah. So if you have a Windows 10, you're okay. But Windows 8, Windows 7, check if you have 5.0 or newer. And also you need to install Git 2.x from the use of the Git Windows command prompt option. So it depends on Windows PowerShell and Git. Let me just show you what Git is. Git Windows. So here it is. Let me just go to the downloads page. You'll see. So this is the Git, and you can see that you can download it from Windows, Mac OS X, or Linux/Unix. So you have and you can see for Mac OS there's several options. Know that any non-sensitive position are and maybe, and if you want to use this Homebrew, install Homebrew if you do not have it. Homebrew is popular managed package manager for Mac OS. So you just type in brew install git, and then Xcode. Apple ships a binary package of Git with Xcode. So if you install Xcode, you do not need to use brew install git. So if you're developing an iOS app or something like that, and you have Xcode installed, then you don't need to do the brew. And then there's a binary installer, so TeamHubber, the latest version and 1 month ago, and you can see that you can build from source. You can use on kernel.org. So they have the source code for it. So if you want to be making source code, you can just download the whole source code, and once you're done with downloading all the files, you can just pretend and put it in a folder, a global folder, where it can be accessed globally, and now you can use that the other way around. So make sure you install it, and this is just for Mac OS. There's also Linux. So Linux, and you can see that there's some commands, and there are quite a bit of installers that you can use. So you can add these, you can use this, and for Unix users. For Windows, you can see that you can download the 32-bit version, 64 bits, and I already have Git. Okay, so once you've downloaded Git, you can see that there's this portable version, thumb drive edition. Now this one is smaller space. So if this one is on your computer, you're not going to be transferring it from drives. So if you're transferring the Git application, the Git directories from maybe your computer to maybe another person's computer, your friend's computer, then you'll need to install the portable version. Okay, keep that in mind. And now with that, setup, you can now download the Flutter SDK. And Flutter SDK, once you fulfill this, if Git is, make sure you run Git commands from the command prompt of PowerShell. So if Git is installed, make sure you can run Git commands from a command prompt. So you can start doing Git commands. So if you are in a command prompt, you can just type Git and it will actually happen in the command prompt. It won't throw you an error. Then if it throws you an error, you need to add it as an environment variable. So to add it as an environment variable, you just edit the system environment variables, and a window should pop up. Yeah, here it is, and you can see that this performance, desktop. No, we come here into environment variables, and you can see that here environment variables, path, temp, and then there are some system variables. But we can see here that there are some variables that you can use. So you can come here into the path. That's the environment variable you're supposed to choose, and it will pop up another window about the path. Oopsies, maybe. Okay, now we come into path, and there we go. So you can make a new environment variables, and you can see that in every application, if you have your Flutter folder, you can have the C/Flutter/Flutter. You know everything has a bin folder. So most of the applications that we are installed have a bin folder automatically wrote into the system variables. So sometimes that doesn't necessarily happen. You can see that there's some everything, because so there are many things that are using environment variables. You just check if the path of your Git is associated with one of those. So you can see that this is a variable, but this is a path, and you can see that you can add many things onto it. So if you find where you install your Git, there should be a /bin directory. If not, and also get there now. If you have, depending on what platform, if you actually click here, now this is the latest stable version, so you can click on it for Windows, and you'll see, and you can extract a zip file and contain, and instead desired is, for example, C/source/Flutter. So you put it in a directory, and make sure you do not install Flutter in a directly like C/program files. That requires the privileges, and make sure that if you don't want to install a fixed version from the installation button, you can instead use the Git version. So that's why you need Git if you want to install it via Git. So you just type git clone the URL of the repository, which is github.com/flutter/flutter.git, and you use the -b flag, and then you add stable, so it will install the stable version. To clone the stable version onto your system, and that's how it works. And you can see update your path. So if this doesn't work to you, you can type Flutter commands in the description. If you can't, type some Flutter commands. So some Flutter commands like can type Flutter doctor in your command prompt and throws an error. You should add it to a system and variables, because you don't have to go to the install location, and then once you go into the Flutter console, don't have to do all that. You can just run it locally. And also editing the system environment folder. That's where I showed you the flat path. Okay, you can see that if I go into my path, I wrote this custom one, and if I delete this, I won't be able to write from the command prompt anymore. Let me just give you a comparison. So new, let's do C/Flutter/Flutter/bin, and that's the bin folder. And now if I press OK, I should be able to run Flutter Doctor alright. Unless, okay, Flutter Doctor is running. You see some indications that this is working. To just show you a list of stuff. So you let this run, and once it is run, it will show a list of every data. So it will show you a list of all the data. If you run Flutter Doctor, making sure it's spelled right, it should show some data. But if let me just Control C to save time, and if I accidentally, remove this environment variable, and now I do Flutter Doctor, that won't work. If I run Flutter Doctor, it should not work. But now, if I make a new path, C /flutter /bin, that should work. So if I leave it like so in the correct configuration and press OK, and OK, and you can see once I've done that, we are done. And you can see that download a note of Flutter 1.9, the SDK that contains that command as long, so you can easily down that command line programs, download the SDK, also download the compatible. But if you've downloaded that, make sure the Flutter version of that is in your path, as the two versions, the following command: macOS, Linux, and Chrome OS tells you whether Flutter data commands originate from the same bin directory and therefore compatible. So you can see here you can run which Flutter dot. So this command, which Flutter dot, that specific command will look for if they are compatible or not. And then also same again, and they don't come from the bin directory. So you can see that they're not coming from the bin directory. This is like /bin /flutter, but this one is local /bin /start. So they do not match up. And you can run on console, you run Flutter Doctor, that's what I was saying, and it will look something like this. So you can see that it should do that. And then in the following section, how to perform the task and finish. Once you've installed the missing, you can run to verify you set everything up correctly. The Flutter tool uses Google Analytics to manage reports, features usage around basic. This data is used to improve Flutter tools. Flutter tool analytics are not sent on the way to disable reporting. You can do Flutter config, no analytics, to display the current setting, Flutter config. If you opt out, an opt-out event is sent, and no further information is sent. So you can see that when you download the SDK, you'll have to follow the privacy rules here. So you can see the privacy policy to and you can see for Google the privacy policy. So if you're concerned with privacy of downloading Flutter, if they are having anything bad, you can see that in the Google privacy policy. And Flutter includes the Dart SDK. So if Flutter or the Flutter SDK crashes, or the Dart SDK itself crashes, you can set a trash report. And here is you can see the Android setup. You have to install Android Studio. We can do that. Right, you already install. If you install Android Studio, just go to Android and it should show up. So you can see okay, you come and click Android Studio here, so /studio, and you can see Android Studio. You download it, 871 MB, should take almost 1 hour depending on your internet speed. And you can see that when you want to set up your Android device, you want to have some Android Elementor, so you do Android Studio, and once you're in Android Studio, let me show you. So once you open Android Studio app, it's supposed to show you a menu. When you open Android Studio. Let me just type it again to see if and make sure that when you run your Flutter app on an Android device, you need an Android device Android 4.1. So if you want to actually connect up to a real device, make sure it's higher than 16 API level, 16 or higher. So there's 16th, which is like all the way in 2014. So that Android version of 2014, it should be to test it up. It needs to be higher than that version. So and if you want, you can set up an Elementor. So what you do is you run Flutter devices to see all your devices available in your project. So you run Flutter devices, and once you have run Flutter devices, you can check. But if you actually want to run this, you can see enabled developer options and USB debugging on your device. Detailed instructions are available in the Android documentation. And this setup, you can just go to the documentation of it. Let me just see. Okay, Android Studio has opened up. Let's just cancel. So once Android Studio has actually loaded up for you, once you press cancel, it will load up a menu similar to this. So you have this, and then you can just press configure, and once you can see AVD manager, SDK manager, default plugins. Now when you install Android Studio, it isn't installed by default with Flutter. So you open this plugins page. Let me just show you, and there's some plugins you can install. The first one is, let me just wait for it to load up. Okay, you can start searching for Dart, the Dart plugin. So the Dart plugin is a plugin that you can use you can install the Dart or Flutter plugin. Sometimes it installs both of them if you only install one of them. But make sure both of them are installed on the plugins in the marketplace. Let me just check. Okay, so we need to search for Dart. Okay, so once it will load up a menu and you can install it, you can see I already have 4 installed, which is the Dart plugin. And if I have the Dart plugin, I also have the Flutter plugin. So this is the Flutter plugin. So you install it, and also the Dart plugin if it's not installed, and you press OK and exit out of this menu. And the also thing you want to set up is the everyday, if you want to be working with Android emulators, just in case. Okay, it's opening a menu, and you will see your virtual devices, and you can see this message: VTX is disabled in BIOS. You can click troubleshoot here, and you can see enable VTX in your biosecurity settings. Refer to the documentation of your computer. So you have to go, if it's a Windows, you go to the version of your computer. So if it's a Windows 10, look for the documentation of it, and then you can enable VTX. So when you want to create a virtual device, you can create mind, and you can see that you can see the type of thing that you want. If you want a TV emulator, do you want a phone where OS emulator, do you want a tablet emulator, do you want an automotive emulator? What you can choose is phone, because phone has a lot of models. Now we can just look for the type of phone that we want. Android phones. Well, you will see that we can use the Pixel 3a. I think Pixel 3a will work well. And then you press next, and you can see recommended, refresh, and you can see a system image. So there's R, there's Q, there's Pi. Now don't choose something that's too old, like Nougat. Don't use those ones. You can use this Oreo one. I recommend Pi. So if you do not have Pi, you have to download Pi first. And once you've downloaded Pi, so it is starting the Pi, it will take some time, but do not close the window until the installation finishes, because if you do close the window, the installation will be cancelled, so you won't be able to go there. And once you do, you can click next, and it will actually put phone on this menu, and then after that you'll be able to see it, and you'll be able to click this button and run it. That is if you're using an emulator. It should be important later, but you can see that there are a lot of things. You can see here is the documentation. Back to the Windows install. You can set it up. In the web setup, you can use you can also set it up for the web. So if you have issues going through the emulator, you can set up for the web. So what you do is you web, and then you can follow some instructions. We'll be using web. And you can see to create a Flutter app with web support, you need the Flutter SDK, you need a Chrome, and you need an IDE that supports Flutter, which is optional. So if you have Android Studio, IntelliJ IDEA, or Visual Studio Code, those are the three perfect things. Android Studio, you can just install it alone, and then you get the Dart and Flutter plugins. Or if you want to both run it on an Android device and use some other editor like IntelliJ, you can install Android Studio and IntelliJ. So in order to use an emulator with another code editor, you must install Android Studio, because that's where the emulators are put. Or you can use Visual Studio Code, which is recommended because it has a lot of autocomplete features. Even without some autocomplete tools, you can just still get native autocomplete, because the way the components are structures, name parameters, the way it is statically typed, that the language you'll be using, which is Dart. And here's the setup. So you can see this channel beta. Now this is something familiar to get. That is why this channel beta command, Flutter channel beta, uses get on the behind the scenes to actually switch between in this Git repository that you install. So when you install the zip file, that is just a clone of the repository. That's why there's also an option for Git cloning. And then to check that it's actually in the latest version, just run Flutter upgrade, and when you can type in Flutter config --enable -web. And you can see the Flutter upgrade command silently fails when the origin points to a personal voice. And it validates that the origin points to the GitHub repository and the following commands. So you can see that you need to run in cd inside. So you need to cd into inside the local copy of the Flutter repo. So where you keep your Flutter SDK, you cd into that repository. Then you run get remote get URL origin. If it's good, it will show you the URL. And then once web is enabled, the Flutter devices command shows a Chrome device that lets you open on your app, and the web server that provides the URL serving the app. After enabling web, restart your IDE. You'll see Chrome web and web server in the device pull down. So there's a device pull down, you'll see. And then there's create and run. So you create a new project with web support that is no different than creating a new Flutter. Once you've configured your environment for web support, you can create a run project in the IDE. And either after you've configured your environment to support web, make sure to restart the IDE if it is already running. Create a new app and then create a new app in ID, and it automatically creates iOS, Android, and web versions of your app, and macOS too. If you've enabled desktop support from the device pull down, select Chrome web and run it to see it launch in Chrome, and you can see the command line from that creating it. So your Android Studio, you have a menu here, and you can just click start a new Flutter project once you have the plugins installed. But what else you can use is you can use the command line. If you're having Visual Studio Code, you Flutter create the name of your app there, and then you cd into the name of the app, and then you can use the Flutter run -d Chrome. So -d specifies the device you're choosing. So if you have an emulator connected, if you have a device connected here, if you have an emulator on Android Studio, you need to use -d. But if there is no other device other than Chrome, you're safe to use other things. Then you can see the Flutter run command launcher using a development compiler in the browser. Now make sure when you're in the beta channel, there's a recent problem since Chrome 7. No, there's a recent problem with Flutter. You need to run Flutter run -d the Chrome -- release. Make sure you're running it in release mode, okay? And then when you want to build, you can actually Flutter build web. And when you want web support to an existing problem, just write Flutter create dot. Now Flutter create dot will make a Flutter app in the directory of your choice. So the directory that you're choosing is the one that will upload the local the working directory that you opened it in. Enough of the talk. Let's actually go and create our app. Okay, let's run Flutter create, what do you want to call it? To do app. So to do _app, and you can see the notation is different from other languages. This is just a convention for that. For that, instead of using instead of using something like something like a dash, use an underscore, because a dash is a character that's unique to the computer. So you can't use a dash. You can't use a dash in Dart because it's invalid or something. So make sure you have the right notation and for your app name, and make sure that if you want some support like Flutter like Firebase support, that is what we want, Firebase support, so somebody can log into your account, and you can log into the account, and if you want support like that and not just a brand app, you use the Flutter create, and make sure before the name is space, and then you use --org and the name of the organization. Now it is usually com, that's your company name, so com.techexpert. What's your name of your app? To do app. Now that to do dash there is working because it's a URL, not it's a string, and this is actually a name of a package. So if we run that, it will successfully execute. Okay, Let's wait for it. Why is it so slow? Flutter is becoming slow. Close this. Okay, let's see. Okay, let's see. Okay, a new version of Flutter is available. So when you have time, so once you've created your app, make sure that you're following along with the same version of me. Now it might not be it's a new version of Flutter, and make sure you upgrade. Yeah, so after making your app, you should directly run Flutter upgrade, because what it's just going to do is going to push in the new files. It is not going to take too long because everything has been made out. So let's see. Okay, when you see this all done netted, it is safe for you to type in Ctrl+C and use Y, and once you've done that, you should be able to do something along the lines of this. So you should be able to cd into what you chose to do app, and once you're cding into that directory, let's do the commands for web support. So what you're going to do is Flutter channel beta. So you're gonna switch into the beta channel. Now you don't need to do this in every React project, but if you're not done it before, it will work. It will work if you have done it before, and to make sure that you're in the version. Before that, I'm actually going to just use code dot, because Flutter upgrade is going to take a long time. So code dot just opens it with Visual Studio Code in the directory. Now let's just before upgrading the Flutter version, let me just show you. Let's run Flutter config dash enable dash web. So when you hit dash enable dash web, it should work. And you can see it may really need to restart any open edited. Now we don't have any open edited, so we don't need to restart it. And when you want to upgrade, you just type in Flutter upgrade, and that should pull in the directory again, but not the whole. It will only pull in the changes, and it will replace those old changes with the new changes. So while we are running Flutter upgrade, safe to go into Visual Studio Code. Once you close that, we have to delete some folders, but not too many. We only need to delete the test folder. So delete this test folder, and once you've deleted the test folder, you are supposed to actually open up. So you open up this lib folder, and we'll be referring to the documentation a lot. And this is a huge program, but this might look daunting, but this is only, most of it is just comments. So this is a programming language called Dart, and it's statically typed, just like TypeScript. So if you're familiar with TypeScript, you're going to be familiar with Dart. But Flutter has a lot of packages. You have a lot of packages, and we can already start building our to-do app. It will be very simple because state in Flutter is very easy. So let me just remove all of this code. Let's first import package Flutter. So we'll be importing Flutter /material.dart. Now it takes a while for autocomplete to kick in. So now it is detected that you've started coding, and the autocomplete should kick in for IMC. So it says no device, and you can see it when the toolbar is empty like so. Make sure you actually restarted your IDE. Equals to start campaigning, and when you type in F5 to try and run it in debug mode, it just might not work for you. So make sure you need to restart any IDE, and it will say something along the lines of Chrome. Wait for it. Now that when you've restarted your IDE, meaning that you'll have to actually wait for the autocomplete to kick in. At the autocomplete, once it is kicked in, now syntax highlighting, and because it's strongly typed, it has a lot of advantages over the languages like JavaScript. Because JavaScript is not strongly typed, so it doesn't have type string. You can just change an int to a string just like that. Yeah, you cannot change it like that and just like that in something. And you show that there were curly braces there, but you can use this shorthand notation to make coding easier. And you can just inject material up in here, but you're actually supposed to make a class. So you can make an app class, and then you call it like so. And making classes in Tart is pretty similar to making classes in JavaScript. So you need to make a class called you can call it app extends a stateless widget, and once you have done that, the autocomplete will kick in. Once you start writing code, you can see it saying no code actions available. But once you recognize the package you're importing, let me just start writing code continuously, and if you can start writing code, it will now assume you're on the place. So you should see there's some autocomplete option that Visual Studio Code provides. The first one is this package Flutter. You can see when I type in package Flutter /material.art, and if I don't want to do it that way, you can see there are a lot of options, and then you can just select one, and you can end it off with a semicolon, and you can do app extends a stateless widget, and you can see that it's complaining. The autocomplete can help solve that. So you can make a stateless widget, open and close curly brackets, and you can see that it gives an error, and it checks for quick fixes, and if it finds some, it will actually, and you can see that the URI doesn't exist. Make sure you're importing the right way. Make sure everything is spelled the correct way. Sometimes autocomplete can help, but make sure you have spell back, and then make sure there's a colon, and then you make Flutter, and then you do a slash like so, and Flutter. Make sure Flutter is spelled correctly, and type in material.dart. Now that is the URI that you're looking for. Now you can see that we need a quick fix, and we need a refactor. So if you don't know what a stateless widget is, Flutter is typically made out of widgets, so you're supposed to actually make, and run app is built in, so you can see reading root, and you can see go live, everything is kicked in, and you can make an app class like so, and then you can make a class app extends stateless widget, stateless widget. and once you've done that, it should not error. So if it is not errored, congratulations, because they know it's a class that you can use. And you have to import the package itself. So you have to import the package. So make sure you've imported the package Flutter /material.dat. And for better autocomplete, there's another something you can do, add a semicolon, and then you can start typing package Flutter /material.dat. And always end lines with a semicolon, because it's just like C++ or C. If you're you can that it gives an error, but now it's not updated. It just says package Flutter/m, which is not the way it's supposed to find the packages. The only solution to this is just restart the IDE. The solution to fixing those kinds of errors, sometimes even in JavaScript, it starts refusing the correction of the error. And that's some error in some editors, that they might be a little bit delayed. So if that passes for a long time, just restart the IDE, whatever you're using. Restart it, and it works with many editors. It can work with even Sublime Text. If you know what you're doing, it can work with Sublime Text, and now it does not error. And you have to make an @override statement. So override, and we can make a widget. So widget build. So the name of our widget is build. It will take a build context. So it will take a build context. So it's called context. You'll see that it's much faster. So if you use a widget build, it will take a build context of context. And if I type in context and put in curly braces, we can return a material app. So when you want to really make something with, you can use the material app, and you home property, and you can say homepage. Now for this is just a wine file for homepage, extend stateless widget, and there's also state in Flutter. So in the state in Flutter, there's a state for widgets. So if you control dot or control shift R to refactor, sometimes that doesn't work, and you might run into errors. So you can see that the class name is changing, and a lot of things aren't working for us. Don't worry, we need to control shift R. And sometimes the fact that there are errors, you can just remove this property. You don't need the home property, and just it's a material app. Now it should be able to refactor. So you can see everything. Look at this. It expects a semicolon between every class. So every class needs a semicolon, and you can see that it expected to find that, and it's still erroring. Okay, but these classes actually should not have semicolons. Just the fact that they're having another class beneath, and that should fix that problem ASAP. And what you can do is use this build context of context, and you can click run the run main function. Enter the main function has a special property which is called run, and for this example all we need is a home page. So you can make a class home page, and if we restart the IDE, everything should work out. Now the refactor tools should work. If you have Visual Studio Code, and you see the autocomplete is kicking in. You can see I now get an extend, and I can now just write stateless widget, and you can see that stateless widget, it does not quite know what a stateless widget is, and thus you can see that stateless widget.build is missing. So you can just come and type control dot, and you can see you can just create that, and then you can implement the build method, and then you can just remove this crap, and then we can now just return a scaffold, and return a scaffold. And now this scaffold will have some up bar. So we have an up bar and the up bar component. So we have an up bar, and an up bar will have a title. So this has a title of text, and then we can just say hello, and we can also give this app a theme, and we can just call homepage here like it's normal class, just like that, and then we can even make a theme. So we can have theme data and many things as well. Just leave the default Android style theme, and let's see. So if you call something like homepage, make sure you correct your errors, and if you correct some errors, it will do some autocomplete for you. Just good to know. And you can see that create method, create class, homepage, and because the slight difference in the class between the real class, it will now work, and everything should be sorted out. We don't need that semicolon, and we can just run it. So we can hit F5 like so, and that should run and debug. You click run and debug. There's no configuration, you just come here and click Dart and Flutter, and you can just start debugging. Click start debugging, and that should start a debug session, and that should open up Chrome. So you can see that it's launching it up. You can see launching, and you can start doing debugging here, cool stuff, hot reload, and all of that good stuff. And the hot reload button is here. You can see hot reload, control F5, the restart, control shift F5, and the stop the process. And then you can take DevTools inspector, and you should see it here. It should say launching with the page which it was opened by default. So it's launching it in debug mode, and it should have an automatic hot reload. Because the system is that when we save, it just automatically hot reloads. And if you have Visual Studio Code, you also have autosave, which means you can just automatically reload when you make a change, a small change, it reloads. So you don't have to don't know what your app is, then you could run into your errors. And this is what the debug mode is. And even if you run into errors, you can simply look between each line of code using these tools here that will be highlighted: step over, step into, step out, and other tools, and you can change the device that you're using, which is good. So we have started our debug section, and now we can start evaluating. So you can now start typing things in the values. You can start now typing like ternaries, because ternaries also exist in Dart. And you can now start doing evaluating expressions, debugging your code, and advanced debugging, which is all great. And let me just show you. And the Flutter, and it will show you everything about your app, so how your app is built. And you can see there's already a three of widgets. So there is this function which is called main, which calls the initial app, which would run up the app, and then there's an app class that we made, and then the build the build method, and then the material app widget, and then the home page, and then the home page is implemented, and you can see they have icons now. So you're seeing these are widgets. All of these Flutter icons are widgets, and these boxes are functions, and these like cups are classes. So, and all of these classes are widgets as well. So these classes are widgets. So the app is a widget, the homepage is a widget, the scaffold is a widget, the app bar is a widget, the text is a widget, the material app is a widget, the homepage is a widget. So you can add stateful and stateless widgets. And why is it syncing still? Okay, so this method is actually going to run and launch it in Chrome, and this is going to evaluate. You can start evaluating expressions just the thing. And if you go back to the terminal, you'll see that the terminal is not the point of focus. And you see these run and debug links. That's a Visual Studio Code feature. If you have the Dart and Flutter if you have the Dart extension plugged in, once you write a main function, it will show you a run and a debug option. So if you have a CLI, you can just run it and debug it. And in the case, it is true. It's just that it is initiating this run app function that will fire up a UI using the .UI library. So all of this Flutter stuff, you can use it using the .UI library, but it's much more harder. And it's launching it in Chrome finally. So it might take some time, but keep the process running. Do not exit the process, because that will be very bad. And if there are two instances of the app, exit one. You don't need one. So you can just exit out of one instance of the app. Let me just exit out of this instance, and you can actually focus on more things. So you can see that this is a browser. These are all two standard browsers. This is a standard browser, and this is also a standard browser. Just to show you, you can see that it's fading into black, and that's what we're expecting for both of the apps. They're supposed to be black, totally black. You can see that this window here, which is the to-do app, it should work. So the Flutter app should work, and you can see it's being hosted on localhost 7472. The cool thing about Flutter is that you can mull for both Android and iOS, and you only need to code once. Now, if typically in an iOS and an Android app, you have a team, two teams, the ones that are programming the iOS version and one that's programming the Android version. But that Flutter just releases it one team. All you have to do is just run a simple command, and they get both releases. So that is a very helpful tool. And it to save lots of time. Yeah. So you can see that this is not loading anymore. This tab is not loading. Now our debug process is ready. So this is a dev tool. So this is dev tools. So this brown menu, whatever you call it, is a widget menu that will open up. Okay, the process has stopped. Need to see the problems in the debug console. Okay, if you're on this process, no matter if your browser actually suddenly starts shutting down, it will work. So if I do some text of hello and then I start programming my body like so, it will actually work. And in this app bar you should go and down, and then it should now have a named attribute from autocomplete, which is the, and then you can assign it to a couple of widgets. I'm just going to wrap it in a center widget, and you can see that it analyzes the code and then it's now about to start reloading. So you can have some children, and this children will be a list view, because that's how your to-dos are. And because it will be a stateful widget, you should be able to actually come here and use Control Dot or Control Shift R to refactor it to actually turn it into a stateful widget. You can see convert to stateful widget. Very easy plugin. It will automatically convert it for you. And if you're not supposed to do it in the add override, and you can do lots of variables. So you can do lists. So you want a list of to-dos. So a list of maps, because each to-do is a map, and these are not typed, they're typed uppercase. So these advanced types like string and map, they are typed uppercase. So you're going to see that you can do dynamic. So dynamic, you pass in dynamic as the second primary parameter. Dynamic is also a type, so it can be any other type. So dynamic is a type, and then we are going to call it to-dos and set it to empty. And you can see this will be a list of maps, and you can see that there's some documentation. So you can see the dynamic isn't a type. The list declared with one type parameters. It will fix it by doing a small d, and you can see the type list is declared with one parameter but two parameters, and you can just adjust it. If it errors like that, you should actually only do one. And a list of maps. So you open the array notation, and you can and these it's not recommended to actually do it on one page, because that will overflow your code. So what you're actually supposed to do is take these two classes, because they're state and they're binded together. It's bind together. So you Control X and just delete, and you should have a screen. So if you're on your app, your main app is supposed to sit in this main.dart, because it's the main place where all your widgets will be passing props down, passing data down, changing the data, managing the state of everything. So everything will be done there. So we just want to create another folder in the lab directory called screens. And that screens will be homepage.dart. So we want homepage.dart. So we have screens, homepage, and these two classes again don't overflow the code. The rendering is a different part. The state is a different part. So keep that in mind. And when you're making it, you should have a homepage.dart. And you can see that you can make it with an underscore with that. So you do that, and then you can just open that, and then you paste that code that you left, the code that you cut from the main.dart. You should work, and then you can see this homepage state. Now leave that class there and put this, and we are going to make it into a file called homepage.dart. So what we are supposed to do is go into our home directory, and in our home page there you can do it a home page. to our home page and use an underscore because that is the convention in Dart. So you can do state.Dart like so, and then you can now just copy the code and make sure that you have this, and you make sure that you actually import the library and add a semicolon here, and we should actually make a constructor for this. So home page and make a constructor, and this constructor, you can see I have the object notation. That means I have name parameters, so I can have a home page and then I can have some parameters. That is the standard for Flutter widgets. So you need at I'm gonna make it required by doing the @required decorator, and you'll see to do. So you need the to do, and then you'll need the to do's list. So to do's, and then there's a set state function here. So once you create this, then you'll just have to call set state to set the state. But you can see that it's going wrong, and it's actually not working, but we need to import it. So you can see underscore homepage state. So import underscore, so you can import underscore homepage. You can just import the package, and you can do to do app. So to do app is our package, and then you just type slash. You can see slash screens slash homepage slash. It will show you that there is a homepage.dart. So that should work, and you make sure you have a semicolon at the end so that it doesn't bring an error, and that should be done. And then this, you can see that it needs to be together. So you can see that there are not many options because the classes aren't sitting in the file. So if you want to use an alternative to this, the best thing people will recommend is putting it all in one file. So stateful widgets can be put in one file. So if you have one file, you can just delete the state.dart, and should get deleted. That tab should close up. Let's just close the tab. What's happening? Okay, so we have our homepage.dart, and now it's loading because you have to actually make it. What's happening? And actually it's ending the process. What actually happened? Just cancel this and close this here. And you can start a new Flutter project if you like with Android Studio, as Visual Studio Code is opening. As Visual Studio Code opens, this will be so easy. So what you can actually do, you can just use a for loop that just close all the other instances. Close this instance, because this instance is not the one that we don't want. That's the instance we don't want. And let's try. Okay, Visual Studio Code menu has loaded up. You close this one. If you open multiple instances, close the one that you're not using. And now the thing has kicked in, and now the to-dos have been required. And when you require that when to-dos are required, what actually happens is you need a list view. And what you can do is you can use a builder. So you can have a list view, the builder, and that should be able to build a list view for you. And actually, we can actually make a list view, and we can actually see that you can see to-dos, and then you can have a list view, and then and because I need it to be in the home page state, you can see that list of map to-dos. And we are just gonna come here, not in our state but in our thing here. So list of map to-dos, and that list of maps. So the list of maps is just another way to say an object in Dart, and a map is just like an object, so you can set properties to it and actually assign values to it. So that's the thing. So we'll have a map of to-dos, and we can actually start communicating with it. So in our build method, we can have a list title. So a list title, and continue on and make a list view for us. But first of all, you have to check that this list map of to-do is here and not there. So this to-dos, and you can open and close curly brackets if you want to add something in any constructor. So note that I'm putting it here under the override, because at override it means that you're overriding some property of a class, maybe a function and something. Yeah. So with the other states, we should be able to actually test typing, and let's say hello for the starters. It's just Google Chrome. Let me just try and go into another window. Oh. But you know the stream isn't continuing, because even the IDE is throwing errors. Looks like I can still type. Okay, let's just Control C and Control Y. Is now working. Are we back online? Let's see. Come on. My game developer was watching this. Now. Let's try using the YouTube chat. I may actually try and go to the stream on YouTube, if that is even possible. Yes, it is. Now let me just simply press OK and click. Okay, and everything, the UI is going back to normal. Opening in web browser.